Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Friday night live stream, the first ever Friday night live stream on Saturday night. We had a little trouble with tornadoes last night. Sirens were going off for about 3 or 4 hours. We had high winds and rain, and I just didn't feel like it was a good idea to try to do a live stream in the midst of all that. So anyway, this is Saturday, March the 7th in the year of our Lord 2026. And we're going to be talking about Iran. It's a story. I'm not going to go back all the way through the history of Iran. I'm just going to cover a little bit of the 20th century history for the sake of you who are a little bit younger and don't remember some of these things. Before we get started, let's just update you on the Iraqi dinar. It's still holding steady at 0.00077, where it's been for several years now. Hasn't revalued yet, guys, so you're not millionaires yet, and you're never going to be holding on to the Iraqi dinar. Meanwhile, the Iranian rial is now at 0.000007586, down from 0.0002379 a month ago. So it's lost about a third of its value, I guess, since this all started. The Iranian rial is definitely not a good investment right now. So anybody who tells you buy up Iranian rials and Iraqi dinars because you're going to be rich after the war is over, no, don't listen to them. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to update you on all of that for all of you people who listen to some of these, what they call marketplace prophets. Anyway, a brief history on Iran. Back in, let's see, what year was it? Let me pull up my notes here. Should have put my notes into the StreamYard deal. 1925 to 1941, Reza Shah was the leader of Iran. And he was eventually ousted during World War II when the British and Soviet troops came into Iran. And his son, Mohammad Reza Shah, ended up taking power. And that's the guy that we know as the Shah of Iran. His father was the previous ruler of Iran. And then he was kind of booted out during World War II. Mohammad Reza Shah ruled from 1941 to 1979 with a brief coup where he was kicked out by Mossadegh, I think was the guy's name, in late 52, and then was restored to power in 1953 under the Eisenhower administration. What Eisenhower did was he said, this guy's probably a little more friendly to the United States. Let's put him back in power. And so they sent the CIA in, and they did a propaganda campaign. And this is the kind of stuff the CIA used to do very well. And they got the Shah back in power, where he remained from 53 until 79. In 1979, the sentiment in Iran was anti-Shah. And I remember, well, let me just bring Marcus in, because this is something Marcus and I both need to be discussing. There he is. Welcome, hey, Marcus.
How you doing?
Pretty good. If you're under the age of 60, you might not remember the Shah of Iran. Mm-hmm. You might not even remember the original Ayatollah Khomeini. He died in 1989.
Right.
But when Marcus and I were younger, we both saw Iranians in the United States protesting against the Shah, oust the fascist Shah. I was in Houston, Texas in 1978, and I would go to the laundromat to do my laundry, and on the bulletin board, there's all these flyers, oust the fascist Shah. He's a dictator. He's a murderer. There were a lot of petroleum engineering students from Iran who were attending the University of Houston back then. And some of them apparently lived in my apartment complex, and they put those flyers up. And I heard a lot of I didn't know who the Shah was. I didn't know, I was 21 years old. I didn't know, 22 maybe. I didn't know what was going on. But shortly after that, all hell broke loose in Iran. And I remembered all those Iranian or anti-Shah posters. Marcus, what do you remember?
Well, what I remember is during that coup when the CIA came in, and I've read about this. They didn't spend a lot of money on it. There was some guy by the name of I seen a name. I don't know how accurate this is, but a guy by the name of Kirby Roosevelt. I guess that was his name. And I remember his last name because of President Roosevelt, right?
Right.
So he went over there and they did some kind of a thing where they did protest and inserted the Shah back in, and the whole thing was over oil because they wanted more money for the oil sales, from what I've read. And so he was in power, and there were people in here from Iran that didn't like the Shah. But the last 4 or 5 years that the Shah was over there, apparently the Islamic people in that religion, I've seen a thing where they were making cassette tapes, and they were smuggling them into Iran, and the Shah kept a tight rein on things. There were a lot of freedoms that women experienced that they didn't experience under Islam, but there were some tyranny things going on too. He was tough on certain things. They didn't have freedom per se, which is why they didn't like him, but they had a lot of like cultural freedom, I guess would be the best way to describe it, as far as the way they dress, and that kind of thing. Women could drive cars, go to universities. And when Islam came in, it threw all of that out. But all of these cassette tapes with Islam doctrine came in, and they were circulated in an underground Islamic community, and Islam spread, so that when the overthrow came and they got rid of the Shah because of some kind of repressive things he was doing, it was ripe for Islam to come in because they were kicked out of the country. They came in and took over the rebellion and just took over the country. And when they did that, they took down the Persian flag, which had a lion on it, and they replaced it with this other flag that had all this Arabic writing on it. And they made all of these sweeping changes. And they thought there was tyranny under the Shah. Well, they really got a taste of tyranny under Islam.
Right.
And for 47 years, to the point where now they want the Shah to come back. It was better with the Shah than it was with Islam.
And you were in California at the time, right?
I was, yeah. And there were Iranians there. I was friends with a few of them. And they were telling me some of the things that the Shah has done, which they didn't tolerate dissent in any way. So if there was some kind of dissent towards Iran or the government, then they dealt with that. There was no freedom of speech, from what I understand, which caused some of the rebellion, but kind of out of the frying pan into the fire with the Islamic regime.
Yeah, Khomeini promised a republic. He was going to come in and bring about all of these reforms and give them freedoms that they didn't have under the Shah, and instead he turned it into an Islamic theocracy. And outwent the miniskirts, and in came the hijabs.
Yep, exactly.
Hijabs, however you say that. And he just basically turned the country into a terrorist sponsoring Islamic theocracy.
Right.
And they've held on to power now for 47 years.
47 years, yeah.
And all of the major Islamic terrorist organizations seem to have some link to Iran.
Right. Now, you might remember this, but there was a popular Beach Boys song that they changed the words on it and redid it, and they called it "Bomb Iran." Bomb, 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 bomb. Yeah. That was a sentiment then. And then Carter was in charge when all of this stuff was falling apart, and he attempted a rescue mission for the hostages. We had hostages that they took when they took over, and Carter liked to micromanage everything, and just botched the entire mission. There was helicopters that crashed and people died.
Yeah, that was in the thumbnail, the crashed helicopter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was working for Certainteed back then, because I remember people at work talking about it and said, he's making us look like a bunch of idiots.
Right.
They didn't understand that when you fly a helicopter in the desert, sand gets up into the gears, and a helicopter wouldn't fly, and it crashed. It wasn't shot down. It crashed.
Right.
Because it couldn't navigate in the desert. and we lost some soldiers in that rescue attempt that failed, miserable rescue attempt there. And now they were all dancing and celebrating around the crashed helicopter.
Right.
Pulled the bodies out and all of that. It was horrible.
It was horrible.
But Carter's thinking back then, you see what happened, and you probably remember this, Marcus. The Shah was sick. He had cancer. And if he'd gone into a hospital in Iran, well, they were ready to kill him. They were so anti-Shah back then, they would have found him in a hospital. And so anyway, they had to get him out of the country to get medical treatment. He ended up in New York City. And then all these Iranians in New York gathered outside the hospital saying, kill the Shah, kill the Shah.
Right.
And so then they moved him to Texas. And I remember watching this on television. It was 79, so I was 22 years old. And I was in Wichita Falls, my hometown, Wichita Falls, Texas, and was watching the evening news with my mom. And they said, the Shah of Iran has been transferred to a medical facility at an Air Force base in Texas. They didn't say which one. They just said an Air Force base in Texas. Well, Wichita Falls has an Air Force base named Shepherd Air Force Base. And all we heard was Air Force base in Texas. And my mom and I looked at each other and went, no, don't bring him here. It was San Antonio, but they didn't release that information until later on. But he was a political hot potato. Nobody wanted him.
Yes, nobody
and
wanted him.
He got moved around to he ended up, I think, in Panama or someplace in Latin America. And then finally, Egypt took him in, and he died in Cairo, Egypt, where his father died in, what do they call that? After you're kicked out of the country. Anyway, I can't remember the word for it, but after they run him out of the country, he dies in another country. That's what happened to his father, and that's what happened to the Shah of Iran.
Right.
So once he was dead, of course, they wanted us to return him.
Yeah, and whatever money he took with him when he left.
Right.
And they said he took a bunch of money with. I don't know what the amount was, but they were demanding
hundreds of millions.
Yeah. And the thing that was interesting on that is that they had Nightline. That's how Nightline got started with Ted Koppel, I believe. And every day on the news, they would tell you what day it was of the Iranian hostage.
Oh yeah, we didn't even get to that. The hostage crisis. When he left, all of these Iranians just poured into the American embassy there and took the State Department employees hostage.
All right.
Return the Shah. Or
I think it was 66. Is that right? Or were they
I don't remember what the number was.
No,
I just remember they kept them. I think it was 444 days.
Yeah,
something like that.
And
over a year.
Every day they'd tell you what day it was of the
and they demanded that the Shah be returned, or they were going to kill these people. I don't think they ever killed any of them. No. But this thing just dragged on and on and on until the election, and Reagan just beat Carter up over this thing because he made us look so weak.
Yeah, well, there was that. There was stagflation. There was a lot of reasons why Reagan won. But one of the things he did in his campaign, he says, once he gets in the White House, Iran better let the hostages go. Otherwise, he was ready to take him to task.
People were afraid of Reagan.
They were.
All over the world, people thought that Reagan was a warmonger.
He was going to light off nuclear weapons. And
he was going to nuke Iran the moment he took the oath. And so they let him go, they let all the hostages go because they didn't want to mess with Reagan. It turned out that he was much more reasonable than anybody thought.
Now, if you remember the group Genesis, they did that video about Reagan setting off the nuclear bomb, and they had Reagan as a puppet.
I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, Reagan was a puppet on MTV, and they had him push this button and nuclear explosions in the background. Everybody was afraid of him, but he threatened Iran. And then once he got into office, they let him go. They returned home. So,
right. Yeah. And there were accusations that Reagan had negotiated a deal with the Iranians,
Right.
You hold on to the hostages long enough for me to get elected.
Right.
And then let them go. And
that came from the left, number one. And number two, there were other reasons why he won. It wasn't just the Iranian crisis. So the economy wasn't doing.
It was a
well.
number of things. Carter was
Yeah.
just a lousy president. That's the reason.
Yeah, 18% interest rate during that decade.
Yeah, it was messed up. Stagflation.
Yeah.
The Russians went into Afghanistan, and our response was to boycott the Olympics.
Yeah.
That was Carter's response, because he was a man of peace. That was his. And Reagan took over, and Reagan says, "No more Soviet expansionism." And we went into Grenada and kicked the commies out of Grenada, and we funded the Contras in Nicaragua, illegally, unfortunately.
Yeah, they found a spy network here in America, and they systematically removed all the Russian spies that they discovered. They're getting secrets about the space shuttle and all kinds of stuff. So,
but anyway, it was a very interesting time, because the reason the Carter got elected, in my opinion, is that people just turned against the Republican Party because of Watergate.
Watergate and Nixon,
and Nixon, and they just felt like Nixon was a crook, and let's try a Democrat, but not just any Democrat would do. They needed a Southern Democrat who seemed to stand for traditional values. And Jimmy Carter fit the bill. He was a Sunday school teacher in the Baptist church there in Plains, Georgia. And people liked him. But after 4 years of Carter, they said, this guy's inept, incompetent. He doesn't know how to do it. The economy was weak. Our foreign policy was whack. And he had everybody turn their thermostats down during the energy crisis.
Exactly.
And, stuff like that. Instead of saying, hey, let's do something about the oil situation. Let's drill, or let's pressure the OPEC nations or whatever. No, just turn the thermostat down.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that Carter also started the Department of Energy. And he wrapped everything together, all the different energy agencies under one umbrella. And the Nixon administration was viewed as corrupt. They had Spiro Agnew, who was a vice president, who got kicked out and was replaced by Ford. So that when Nixon resigned, then Ford took over. So the whole thing was a debacle, which is what caused Carter to come in the first place. And then Carter really screwed things up.
Yeah. If you guys are under 60, you missed the civil rights movement. You missed the Vietnam War protests, Woodstock. You missed the Chicago 7. Angela Davis, Watergate. You missed all that fun stuff.
No, I wouldn't say they missed it, but you weren't around to experience that. That's for sure.
Well, it's just, I'm being facetious here, but the thing is, whenever I hear people say we've never been more divided than we are today, I'm like, you weren't around back in the 60s.
They were really divided back then.
We didn't know if we were going to survive. Not only were we tearing ourselves apart on the verge of civil war, but we were also doing disaster drills because we thought we were going to get nuked by the Soviet Union. Did you ever do a disaster drill?
I didn't. My wife did, though. She talks about it, but they just decided, I guess they're going to let us die or something. I don't know. We never did a disaster drill.
Let you know what a disaster drill was.
Right, where you hide under the desk at
You're
school.
sitting in class in the third or fourth grade, and ding, 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 ding. Oh, it's a disaster drill. So everybody either get down and hide under your desk, or you go out in the hall, and one person will cover the other person in case of a nuclear bomb.
And that was our protection from a nuclear explosion.
In case we get nuked, the person covering you will get fried, but you're going to survive and die within 6 months of cancer.
It's just, again, it's the government doing something to look like they're doing something to try to stop panic. The same thing happened during 9/11 or not. See, there was that guy that got on the aircraft and had a bomb in his shoes.
The shoe bomber.
The shoe. Right. After that, they made everybody remove their shoes. Not that it does anything, because now they have the detection stuff that can detect anything like that. But it's just to show, look, we're doing something about this.
Yeah. It serves the same purpose as the close button on the elevator.
Right. Pretty much.
A lot of people don't know. The close button on an elevator does nothing.
Yeah.
The open button does.
Yeah.
But you can sit there and poke the close button until you're, blue in the face. It doesn't do anything. It just gives you the sense that it's going to close.
That's going to move faster.
Yeah. Our government sometimes just baffles me how stupid they are. But, they're relying on us being stupid, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, many times they're right. You know,
Yeah.
hey, everybody take the shot here.
I think they're relying on us being sheep more than stupid. There's certain
Well, maybe
things
that's a
that
better way to put it,
sheep. Yeah, yeah,
because not that many people are educated on nuclear armaments, and not that
Mm-mm.
many people are educated on vaccines. And
Right.
so the government can pretty much tell people whatever, and they'll listen, and they'll
Right.
do it anyway. I don't want to get off onto all that, but that's what we went through back then. The Shah, and the Shah was a bad dude. I just, I'm
Yes,
not saying he was a nice guy,
he wasn't a saint, that's for sure.
but our foreign policy back then, because it was the Cold War,
Mm-hmm.
we had to stop communism. That's the reason we went into Korea. We had to stop the commies from taking over South Korea, and it turned into a kind of a stalemate, but
Mm-hmm.
it seemed to work.
Yeah, the
And
interesting thing about Korea is that when we went into Korea, it was under a UN mandate. Congress did not declare war, but we went in anyway, and the UN mandate gave it legitimacy. We didn't have a Congress declaring war since World War II.
right,
Everything we've gotten involved with, every skirmish, has had nothing to do with
the
Congress's
police
approval.
action, or
Right. Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah. So we follow the same policy in Vietnam.
right.
Now Kennedy wasn't going to go along with that, but of course Kennedy got whacked,
Mm-hmm.
and LBJ took over, and so the war escalated.
Right.
Because we had to stop them. And I remember I was a kid, I would hear my parents say, if we don't fight them over there, we're going to have to fight them over here.
Yeah.
Which doesn't necessarily mean in the United States, but it meant in the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
We want to stop them over there. They have what they call the domino theory.
Right.
That if one country falls, another one will fall, and another one will fall.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's, nip it in the bud, as
Right.
Barney Fife used to say.
They use the same logic in Desert Storm. We're going to fight them over there instead of them over here. So I remember Bush saying that a lot when the war was on, and they were removing Saddam. We should fight them over there. They were fighting some Islam stuff.
Yeah. So that was just part of our Cold War strategy, was to go and fight these wars in Southeast Asia, so that we wouldn't have to fight them in Central America or anywhere in the Western Hemisphere. Let's fight over there, and so we won't have to fight over here. But a lot of the war protesters said, why are we going over there to a country we can't even find on a globe,
right,
to fight a war for people we don't know anything about? It just didn't make sense to a lot of people, but to the people who ran the country, it made perfect sense to go and fight over there to stop the spread of communism.
Right.
And
well, most of the wars that were fought after World War II were proxy wars.
Yeah.
We fought Russia through other nations. Russia fought us through other nations. That was the Cold War. We didn't fight each other head on. That skirmish was with other nations.
Yeah, it's kind of rude, but we would go into somebody's home and fight their neighbor.
Yeah.
Right there in their house. It's just like, hey, this is my house. We're at war. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And these people are just out there trying to harvest the rice and feed their families and live their lives, and we're over there blowing the whole country up.
Right.
It was terrible, but that was the strategy. And I gotta say, I heard so much anti-war propaganda when I was young. Like, say, I was too young for Vietnam. The war ended about the time I graduated from high school. But I heard all the rhetoric. And looking back on it, studying it, I don't know that we were wrong. I don't know that war didn't have the desired effect of stopping the spread of communism, because there was very little activity in the Western Hemisphere as long as we were over there fighting. That doesn't mean I think it was a good idea, but what better ideas were on the plate? I mean, I don't remember anybody.
I think part of the problem of the Vietnam War is that it was a micromanaged war. Congress was a little bit more involved in it.
I would agree.
They were making decisions on behalf of the military, not letting the generals do the task.
Conceptually, it wasn't a bad idea.
And what was the city Saigon that fell? And you've seen how that fell.
Saigon.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of things that didn't really turn out too well. And then, but to look at Vietnam today and look at their exports.
They're doing great.
It's a totally different country.
Anyway, didn't mean to get off on all that. But the thing was, the Shah was propped up as a Cold War strategy.
Yes.
We wanted this guy, even though he was a dastardly dude. He was our friend, our ally.
Yeah, and a lot of them were like that. Idi Amin, there were a lot of people that were propped up.
Ferdinand Marcos in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
We propped it. Pinochet in Chile. Batista in Cuba. Although he got ousted by Fidel Castro, but we were propping up Batista because he was pro-democracy, right? Although
Cold War strategy,
he was a dictator, and
that wasn't a very good dude. No, he was.
That was our strategy back then, right or wrong, and so that's what was going on in Iran. But the Iranian people had enough of the Shah. They wanted change. The Ayatollah said, "Hey, I'll bring freedom to Iran, and we'll have a republic." And he gets in there, and they went from one fascist to a worse fascist.
Right. And they knew who to put in place once they got into power, because they had that whole underground community of Islam that they've been cultivating for 4 or 5 years before the Shah ever went over there, through those cassette tapes, and they would go back and forth and send messages to each other. And if the Shah found out about it, they would kill him. So.
Now, Jimmy Carter could have sent the CIA in like Eisenhower did, and he could have helped keep the Shah in power.
Right.
But he said, it's none of our business who their leader is, and even though we'd invested billions of dollars in that country, Carter did nothing to keep the Shah in power. As a matter of fact, he didn't even want to bring the Shah to the United States. But he finally relented because he knew the sentiment toward the Shah at that point. But Carter did nothing, and the Ayatollah took over, and as a result, we've had now nearly half a century of Islamic revolution all over the world, jihad.
All over the world, state-sponsored terrorism, even to the point to where it affected the Ukraine war, because Iran was sending drones to Russia. So a big, key, significant part of the Ukraine war, in addition to their proxies fighting Israel, was sending these drones to Russia. So, and other places too. In Iraq, when we were at war there, the roadside bombs came from Iran. So they sponsored state terrorism all over the world.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people haven't heard about since this started a few weeks ago, or well, I guess a couple of weeks ago. Actually, it started this latest round because we bombed them back in July.
Yeah,
but
the nuclear deal.
This part, their nuclear facilities, right?
Right.
But this started right after I signed off last Friday night. We got the news that you sent me a text.
Yeah,
Trump just started World War III.
Yeah. So I'm hoping it doesn't evolve into that, but yeah.
But anyway, it's just a little over a week now. People haven't heard much about what Iran did during the war and occupation in Iraq. But Maliki, the leader of Iraq, was a Shia. And Iraq and Saudi Arabia are predominantly Sunni Muslims. But the leader was a Shia. And because he was a Shia, he had relations with people in Iran. And a lot of Iranians were coming in to Iraq and blowing stuff up.
Yeah.
And that just makes me wonder if they were coming into Iraq to blow stuff up when we were trying to build a new government.
Right.
Yeah. How likely is it that Iranians in Iran are going to blow stuff up?
Right.
Once there's a vacuum and they're trying to establish a new government over there. This is one reason I told you I'm really concerned about this situation, because Trump said we're not going to get into regime change and endless wars. And I'm thinking, well, how are you going to set up another government without occupying the country to stabilize the country until the new government gets established and gets control of things?
Right.
And so I was thinking there's no way that we're going to be over there for a few weeks or even months. We're going to be there a while.
If we get into nation building, yes, absolutely. Boots on the ground. But see, the problem with that is that it's not very popular He's got support. Trump has support now because he has said there's not going to be any troop deployments. But the minute he does, say goodbye to the midterms. The midterms are not going to be on the side of the Republicans if Trump puts boots on the ground. And I think Trump knows that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that we're going to get into the nation building per se. Now, once there is some kind of new government established, and this is the part that's scary, we really are crossing our fingers that it's going to be some new government that's good to the Iranian people, because if you look at all the state terrorism that Iran has done over the years, the worst has been towards their own people. They have really treated them badly, to the point to where this other country is bombing your country and they're all out dancing in the streets, and they're celebrating all throughout Iraq. And they're not just dancing, they are doing the Trump dance. YMCA is playing in the background, and they're all doing the Trump moves with the fist, all up and down. I sent you that video from Sky News,
right,
of the areas where all these people are doing this Trump
but
dancing.
they were dancing in Iraq after Saddam was gone. They were dancing and celebrating and greeting us as liberators, and within a few weeks the bombs started going off.
Right. Well,
and they turned against us.
They turned against us for a number of reasons. And what did we find out after that? And Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. You might remember there was a military person who was a man, did some kind of transition to a female. And he was sending these videos to WikiLeaks. And we discovered that the civilians were not cared for like they should have been in this war. We discovered that there were civilian casualties that could have been avoided that they just didn't really care about. And meanwhile, the press was saying that there was regard for civilian life. But the information that WikiLeaks had pointed out was that there wasn't regard for civilian life. I remember one thing in particular where they're going to bomb this building where these people were, and there was a man dropping his kids off somewhere, and he was in the car. The video was on WikiLeaks, and they could have waited a couple of seconds for him to pass, but instead they bombed the building, killing the civilians. And their comment over the radio was he shouldn't have brought his kids to a war zone. Well, all of Iraq was a war zone. That was a stupid thing to say. But the point is, they're ignoring the civilian life turned the tide in Iraq, because they viewed America as liberators until they weren't. And I don't think that's going to repeat in Iran.
You're talking about Chelsea Manning?
Yes, Chelsea Manning.
Yeah,
Yes.
Chelsea Manning was the trans soldier who leaked all this.
And they were mad at her and mad at Julian Assange because the narrative that the media was spinning for Iraq didn't line up with the WikiLeaks official secret documents that were being leaked.
Right.
So that was part of the rebellion that seems to be ignored for some reason.
Yeah, but people just in general don't like to have their country occupied.
Right.
In the time of Christ, the Romans occupied the land of the Jews, Israel, and they didn't like their occupiers.
Right.
Northern Ireland didn't want the British in Northern Ireland. Iraq, the situation in Iraq. Let's see, India under Gandhi was occupied by the British. Gandhi went in and said, "Get out of our country." And the British said, "If we leave your country, all these sects are going to turn on each other and they're all going to start killing each other. We're the only ones who can rule this country and hold the country together." And Gandhi says, "No, we can do it. We can govern our own country." And he pressured them, and they left. And sure enough, all the Indian people started killing each other, just like the British said, until Gandhi went on a hunger strike. And he was so revered by all Indian people, they didn't want him to die. And so they all decided to start getting along.
Right.
But that was the story. If you ever saw the movie Gandhi, that was the backstory was the British were occupying, and Gandhi was mistreated by British soldiers, and said, it's time we got these people out of our country. People just don't like to have their country occupied. Texas, I grew up in Texas. We were occupied by the Spanish, and we wanted the Spanish out of there. Kosovo in Serbia, the Albanians came in and were running everything, even though Kosovo was Serbian, and that's
Right.
why they elected Milosevic. They said,
Right.
"Hey, we're native Serbs here in Kosovo, and these Albanians are treating us like second-class citizens." Milosevic says, "Elect me, I'll take care of problem."
Hmm.
And they did. They elected him, and he went in there and he told the people, "Okay, we're in charge now because this is Serbia. This is
Hmm.
not Albania."
Hmm.
And they started blowing stuff up
Right.
and fighting the Serbs. And he says, "Hey, I asked you nicely."
Hmm.
And so he started killing them and running them out of the country. And then
Right.
NATO jumps in and says, "Oh,
Right. That
it's
whole thing was a NATO debacle. The
ethnic
entire thing.
cleansing and all
Yeah.
of that." But
Yeah.
they were occupying a part of Serbia
Yeah.
because they had. This is why you got to be real careful about your immigration policy.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Look at what happened in Kosovo. Those
Hmm.
people were native Serbs, and the Albanians came in and took over that part of Serbia.
Right.
And then when they tried to go in and get rid of them, everybody started saying, "Well, that's ethnic cleansing. That's genocide. You're another Hitler." And no, he's just trying to get these people to honor the Serb constitution, the laws of Serbia.
They didn't embrace the culture. So.
I mean, Milosevic wasn't a nice guy. He was pretty ruthless, but that's just the way they handled things when he was growing up, and he didn't realize that NATO was going to come in there and do a propaganda. It was NATO's 50th anniversary or whatever, so they wanted a big victory to celebrate, and the whole thing was a mess. But again, occupation, people don't like being occupied.
Right.
And if we hang around there, even though they're greeting us now as liberators, in no time they're going to resent all these American forces in their country. But I've come around over the past week, and I think, as I told you, I don't think Trump is stupid. I mean, this thing obviously had been planned for a while.
Right.
This has gone so well. The military campaign has gone so well. You got to figure he's had this plan in development since he took office a year ago.
Mm-hmm. I found an old clip with him on Oprah where he's talking about the very thing that's going on right now. It was viral. We talked about dealing with Iran, going into Iran.
So I think what has happened, because I've been following the news a little bit this past week, I think the Shah's son, he's very popular in Iran. He doesn't want to be their ruler. He doesn't want. He's lived in America for decades, and he's old. But I think what they're going to do is they're going to have him come in and be their interim leader.
Yeah.
And put together a constitution, and a new country. And they're going to, if you remember in Iraq, they had what they call de-Baathification. The Baaths were the political party that Saddam belonged to.
Right. They were Sunni. Yeah.
Right. They wanted to get rid of all the people who were loyal to Saddam and build a government with non-Baath people. That was called de-Baathification. Well, all those people are out of a job now.
Mm-hmm.
And they resented the fact that they got kicked out of their positions, so they turned against the new government.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So they're trying to learn that lesson from Iraq and say, we're not going to kick out all of the people who were part of the Islamic government.
Right.
Okay. We just want to make sure that everybody is, signing on with the new government, the new direction of Iran. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to just indiscriminately fire everybody that we don't trust. They're gonna be smart about it, I think, and let him come in. Of course, the whole government hasn't fallen yet, so it might be premature to say this, but I think it's a given that the next week or two they're going to collapse.
Yeah, fairly soon. They've beefed up the campaign. They're going after oil fields now, which is kind of interesting. What is Iran's behavior during this is really what is revealing to me, because he had these two carrier groups there, and he was still trying to negotiate in the 11th hour, and Iran was stringing them along. And I read a clip, I forget what, Daily Mail or some newspaper, that said that they got information that Iran was planning a first strike on American forces. And then Trump said that partly the reason why they went in there, they did it in defense. And then it came out in one of the press releases. Caroline, I don't remember her last name, the press person, but she said that Iran, they have information that Iran was planning a first strike on, and that's what caused Trump to go in there. He wasn't planning, I don't think, to go in on that Saturday. I think he went in there because they were planning a first strike, and they were using the negotiations to prolong the time so they can get a first strike capability going.
Wasn't the first strike carried out by Israel?
Yes. Well, it was a coordinated effort, but yeah, Israel. And
what I heard,
yeah, go ahead.
What I heard was that they have this rocket that they can launch into space. Yeah. It goes way up like 100 miles. And then it travels a little bit, and then it comes back down straight out of space so that they don't track it. It doesn't come up on their radars because it's not crossing land. It just goes straight up into space, and then it comes back down, straight down. And by the time they've spotted it, it's too late. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's pretty cool. I think if you've got a intercontinental ballistic missile that you can't track because it actually goes into space, it's also kind of scary. But
well, from what I understand, is the reason why they were able to kill so many leaders at one time was because they were all meeting there, planning their first strike initiative. Now, at the same time, Iran has intelligence, and they saw that the Israeli generals went home to celebrate their Shabbat. And so they figured, oh, well, there's no attack coming if the generals are with their families celebrating Shabbat. So we don't have to worry about this weekend. So that let their guard down.
Plus, it was a daytime attack. Yeah. Usually they attack at night.
Right. But the other thing that really is surprising.
We caught them napping.
Yeah. The other thing that surprises me was how many other countries they attacked that had nothing to do with this. The whole Arab community was on their side. Every Islam nation was on their side.
Or on the fence.
But they were siding with Iran. Don't go in, don't bomb. But then Saudi Arabia wouldn't let Iran use their military bases. Or not Iran, America. Saudi Arabia wouldn't let America use the military bases, wouldn't let America do anything. They had to fly around Saudi Arabia airspace. And then Iran turns around and sends missiles and drones to Saudi Arabia. And they're taking out American bases, but they've also went into residential areas. And it's amazing to me. All these Arab nations, they're not just attacking the American military infrastructure, but they're taking out hotels. They're taking out some neighborhoods that are civilian neighborhoods. They even launched an attack on Turkey and fired a missile at Turkey, which has nothing to do with the conflict. And then NATO took the missile down. So it's crazy. By the time Turkey comes along, that's the 13th nation that has nothing to do with this conflict that they basically attacked. And they said, we're sorry we have to do this, but to be mad at America. So there's their strategy. Now, this is what I think. I think they took out the leadership and they had a plan in place, but because they took out the leadership, they had no direction. And so they were just following what their orders were before the leadership was taken out. And they were just responding to some plan they had in place, attacking these countries. But the whole narrative that we're attacking you because America is attacking us doesn't fit well. It's just stupid reasoning. And so all these
that's not how you win friends and influence people.
No. So they all turned, and then they're all coming out now. Even Saudi Arabia is saying we need to change the regime. So when you're talking about changing out the regime or nation building, all the Arab countries now are calling for this because of their attack.
Like I was telling you, the lady pilot that was shot down accidentally in Kuwait, and she bailed out and landed on the beach. And these 3 Kuwaitis go running up to check on her. You okay? Are you okay? And they said, thank you for helping us. And then they all took a selfie with her.
Right.
I think no matter what the governments over there say, I think all of the people in that region know that Iran was a huge problem.
A big problem.
For the whole region, and they all want the Ayatollah dead. Gone. And he is dead now.
Yeah. But not just him, the whole line, that whole dynasty removed.
Right. They want that whole regime gone.
Right.
And they want a new Iran. They may not want another Iraq situation where they try to create a Western style democracy, but they want something better than what they had, which that's not a real high bar.
Right. Well, look what brought us to this point, though. It was Obama that gave them 1.7. Was it 1.7 billion? Yeah. And Joe, I'm not sure on the amount. I want to say 14 billion, but a lot. And they, instead of using that money on their citizens, what they've done is they put that money into proxies. They funded. They're the main funding of Hezbollah. They're the main funding of Hamas.
Yeah.
The Houthis as well. Also in their infrastructure, they acquired all of these rockets and missiles and those kind of things.
Were they behind ISIS? Were they funded? Were they funding ISIS?
I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
I wouldn't surprise me if they were, but they were funding all of this stuff. Now, what's interesting is that as this war is breaking out, I don't know if you've seen this within the last week or so, but Hezbollah started to attack Israel in a coordinated attack. See, what has been happening is they've been taking out their missile launchers. So the amount of missiles they would fire dropped. And so what they were doing now is coordinated attacks with Hezbollah. So they would fire, Iran would fire missiles and Hezbollah would fire missiles, which tells us that these proxies they had were taking Iranian orders because Iran was funding them, their whole regime. In the meantime, the people are starving. And when the nuclear program was wiped out, people are devastated. There's no industry there. They have few jobs and the whole economy has crashed. And so that's where the rebellion came from, because all the billions they got from the United States, they spent it on their war machine.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is I was looking at this today. Some of the ships that went over there that the United States has this Helios system. Have you heard of it?
Mm-mm.
Okay. What it is, it's a laser, and it shoots, it targets like a drone, and it will take the drone out of the sky in 3 seconds. And the cost per shot is under $1. So if a drone costs, $400,000 and maybe, $1 million or whatever it costs, they're shooting these things out of the sky with this laser, this Helios system. And you can Google it and you can watch the videos on it. It's all declassified information. There are limitations to it. It doesn't work very well in inclement weather. You need direct line of sight. So there are some limitations that are there. But they launched all these drones towards these American ships, and the Helios system took them all out within seconds. So it's amazing, the technology that it made their whole drone campaign obsolete. So it's interesting to me how they had set up and planned for this. Like you said, they had been planning this a long time. And I think in the back of their minds, they were hoping that Iran would one day come to their senses.
But they weren't counting on it, because the whole time they were planning. I'm sure this thing has been in the works for several months.
With many think tanks on it.
If not, ever since Trump took office. Because it just seems so well coordinated. It's the first time Israel has ever done a joint venture like this. And that takes planning. That takes good communication. So if they plan the post invasion part, see, that was the problem in Iraq. We did a great job of going into Iraq and taking over that country and catching Saddam Hussein. But then we hung around for another 7 years trying to establish a new government, and it was such a mess.
That was a mess.
And so this is what I'm wondering is, how well have they planned out the post phase after we get
this is the scary part, right?
This is the power.
This is the part that worries me. What are they going to do after this? Now, there's a lot of people celebrating that the number one sponsor of state terror in the world has been removed. And the other interesting thing to me was how the left had these protests. I don't know if you saw this, but they had protests in New York and all over the place, and their number one slogan was "Hands off Iran, hands off Iran." And they had professionally printed signs. And they had all this whole thing in New York City. Well, when Trump went into Venezuela and got Maduro, They had the same signs. You could see it came from the same printing company.
Hands off Maduro.
Hands off, yeah. I think
Or
it was
hands off Venezuela.
Venezuela. Yeah. And it's the same protests, the same catchphrases, but the country was changed. This thing is organized, and it comes from the left. Well, the interesting part to me is when people in Iran rose up against the leftists, people living here, and also people in Iran. So you don't know what we went through under Iran, and they took the left head on this and talked about the oppression they were experiencing. 35,000 people died in the last few months for them trying to squash this protest. That's a lot of people to just pass away and be killed and murdered because you want control of your country back. I'll tell you, I agree with Trump on this one thing. If they would have got a nuclear weapon, they would have used a nuclear weapon. State sponsor terror.
Oh, yeah.
They absolutely would have used it if they could, if they had.
Yeah, from what I heard in the negotiations, we offered them enough uranium to handle their whatever needs they have apart from weapons.
Right. It wasn't enriched, because it's the enriched uranium is what you need.
Yeah, but if you guys need uranium, we'll help you get all the uranium you need for peaceful means. But and they said no, we don't accept that.
They want the enriched uranium for the nuclear missiles. You don't need enriched uranium.
They're just liars. They're just like Ayatollah Khomeini, who said, "I'm going to bring a republic," and they called it a republic, but it was never a republic.
Right.
It was a theocratic tyranny.
Right. And all their lies are based on a religious point of view. It's not based on any kind of practicality that I know of. It's all within their religious concepts of radical Islam. Not every Islamist is radical, so we can't put them all in the same category.
Sure.
But at the same time, their deception was part of coincided with their religious beliefs. Yeah. And you couldn't trust them. So.
Well, that was pretty much everything I wanted to cover. I just want to offer a word of caution, because I hear a lot of people, a lot of Trump supporters saying, that this is a victory. It's like it's already over with. It isn't over with yet. Chances are the government will collapse over there within a week or two, but then the hard work comes of rebuilding the country in such a way that they can survive as a new nation with a new constitution and everything. And this thing could still go sour, and you could have a civil war over there. We don't know what's going to happen. And like you said, if this thing gets botched, if it doesn't go smoothly, that's going to have big implications in the November election.
Yes, it's a big gamble. It's a big risk.
It is.
And it could have a big impact on the midterms. And if the midterms go Democrat seizes the House, the Democrat seizes a Congress, look for impeachment charges or any way they can to stop Trump. That'll be a repeat of what happened in his first term. So this is a gamble that this is going to turn out the way it's.
If it turns out well, though, Trump is going to be pretty much what's the word I'm looking? Lionized. He's going to be a hero.
He's going to be a hero.
He's going to be a heroic figure in U.S. history because nobody seemed to know what to do with Iran. I mean, it started before Reagan took office, and it's gone on through Reagan and Bush Sr. and Clinton and Bush Jr. and Obama and Trump and Biden and now Trump again. All those administrations, we never knew what to do. And really, this was probably the only solution, is just to go in there and remove them. But it's a big gamble, and it took somebody willing to accept that challenge and that risk in order to pull it off. And I don't know that Trump has pulled it off. We'll see. But if he does pull it off, wow.
All the chips are in the middle of the table now. They're playing for keeps. And this is why I think there probably will not be boots on the ground. There probably will not be any kind of military going over there. In fact, I've seen they're doing something with the Kurds, and then you talk about using proxies. So I don't know what they're going to do, what their plans are. I know that this is not some kind of fly-by-night thing. They probably have some kind of plan in place.
I mean, you could try to bring the UN in, but I don't think that's very likely.
No, I don't think that's wise either.
Now, with our initial war in Iraq back in the 90s, there was an Arab coalition that joined.
Right. And
the
it was
effort
all UN mandate.
Because it was an Arab nation invading another Arab nation, Kuwait.
Right.
And so there was an Arab coalition. Well, you can't put an Arab coalition together in Iran because they're not Arabs.
Well, even
they're Persians.
Our first Desert Storm war. I think the first one was Desert Storm. Is that what it was?
Desert Storm was the first. Iraqi Freedom was the second one.
Okay. So in Desert Storm, once again, Congress did not declare war. They went in under a UN mandate. And so that is the reason why I'm saying this is because you hear all this news now from the left who are complaining that they didn't get any congressional support for going in there. But, Obama did the same thing in Libya. He didn't have congressional support. He kept it pretty much, secret. So Biden, same thing. He's done things. He's done it, or his staff did it, or they didn't get congressional approval for airstrikes. So we call it a war, but these are so far airstrikes. There's no boots on the ground. There's no military apparatus over there as far as tanks and those kind of things, or they're going to go into the country or invade the country. So I don't know. I mean, it's an attack on the nation. Technically, it could be called a war, I guess. But it falls under the same purview as the attacks that Obama did and the attacks that Biden did.
It's just a little more prolonged,
right? And even Clinton, who did when the Monica Lewinsky case, when we were announcing the verdict, and he did some kind of a bombing type thing.
Aspirin factory.
Yeah, you remember that? And they said it was a bottle factory. Yeah.
Let's take a few.
Okay.
Oh, do you have another point you wanted to make?
No, that's it.
Okay. Tim Miller says Jimmy Carter had high interest rates, bomb shelters, and gas lines. I don't remember the bomb shelters, but I remember the interest rates and the gas lines.
I remember the gas lines.
My dad said, "I never thought I'd see the day that I'd stand in line to get gas at $1 a gallon." Because when we were kids, you could get gas for under 30 cents a gallon.
Right.
And Dad was waiting in line to buy gas at $1 a gallon and griping about it. Of course, $1 a gallon today is cheap, but back then it was expensive and people would wait in line to buy it because it's better than going, down the road to buy $1.25.
And by the way, that's what caused stagflation. Gas going up the way it did made the price of everything else go up because it cost more money to bring goods to market. And so the gas expense was passed on to the consumers, which caused inflation. And so the Federal Reserve was trying to control that inflation by lowering the money supply. And they did that through raising the interest rates. But that's not what caused the inflation. It didn't attack the core of why the inflation was going on.
The energy policy.
Right.
Jace Milligan says politicians lost the Vietnam War.
I think that's true.
There's a certain amount of truth to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
To Bob's Worth. Hi. Good to see you. Welcome. Hope you guys don't mind us getting into the political discussion a little bit, but how can you not bring politics into this?
Right. There's a spiritual element too.
Oh, yeah. There's a number of components.
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter stood for killing innocent children to the grave. I don't know what you mean by that.
Need a little bit more clarity there.
Are you referring to abortion? I don't know what that's referring to. I mean, yeah, he was a pro-choice Baptist, and so that's the knock from a lot of people. And I think, I kind of have to agree with that. Let's see. Johnson sought to beat Goldwater, knowing Goldwater was strong on defense. Johnson claimed a fishing boat attacked a destroyer. The Bay of Tonkin was used to accelerate the Vietnam War. I think it's exactly Tonkin, isn't it? Tonkin.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Used to accelerate the Vietnam War and commit more troops. My brother served in Vietnam. He was in a lot of combat, and during the E6 sergeant in short order. I don't know what the E6 is. Do you know what that means?
That's a rank. So you have this is a military rank.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember that.
We were definitely lied to.
Yeah, absolutely we were.
And if you've ever watched Oliver Stone movies, Oliver Stone was in Vietnam. And when he found out the government had lied to us about that, well, for the rest of his life, he's been on a campaign against the government and war, because all wars are based on lies and yada, yada, yada. Every movie Oliver Stone did, it seemed to be, push this Vietnam narrative. Even his movie JFK, the plot of the movie JFK was that Johnson and his cronies wanted to escalate the war in Vietnam. And my research indicates that it had a whole lot more to do with the mafia than it did with Vietnam. But Oliver Stone's just got this. And, who can blame him? He got lied to, and he could have been killed over there based on a lie. But Born on the 4th of July and what was Platoon, all those Oliver Stone movies seem to have a connection to Vietnam. Have you listened, Jonathan Cahn, on the prophetic aspect, including the date that Israel attacked the house of Ali Khamenei? How do you pronounce it? Is it Khamenei? I used to say Khomeini, but it's spelled different. I think it's pronounced different. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But no, I'm not into Jonathan Cahn.
Yeah, there's other reasons.
I think Jonathan Cahn is real good at linking things that have no connection. My personal opinion. Let's see. I doubt seriously we're going to rebuild Iran like the previous wars. We were in the Middle East for the past 20 years.
That's my opinion too.
There's no reason for that. I think Trump is brilliant. I don't know that he's brilliant, but he's not stupid. That's my point. Is he's not as stupid as people try to make him out to be. I think he just kind of plays stupid. He's kind of like Norm Macdonald, the comedian. Norm Macdonald was smart, but he played dumb really well. Because it sold.
One thing I will say about Trump, especially when this came out when he was building buildings, skyscrapers and stuff, he would listen to people in charge. He would listen to people who knew more about something than he did. He wouldn't just form his own opinion and just go. And so that's the way he is with generals and I think the military. I think his brilliance comes from a military brilliance that he's just given him the go-ahead to go. I think he's smart too. But the fact that he, gets advised by people and he listens to that advice and makes decisions, I think that's where he really shines. Like Jimmy Carter tried to micromanage everything. And
Carter even wanted to review the daily schedule for the tennis courts at the White House. I read that the other day. And I said, "Are you kidding?" That's what a micromanager he was. Stuff that he had it was totally irrelevant to anything he was doing as president. He still wanted to know, well, did you screen them, and did you let them know that they have to be all? That's silly, but that was Carter. He was a micromanager. Does that mean that Rocky Dinari is going to make a comeback and I'll be rich? I think he means the Iraqi dinar.
Yeah, I think he's using a slang term there.
And no, it's not going to make a comeback, and it's not going to make anybody rich.
Not in this lifetime.
The only people that are getting rich off the dinar are the people that are lying and scamming people.
Yeah, selling it.
Watch documentary Europa: The Last Battle. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay. I haven't either. So, well, thanks, Darth Maul. We should look into that. Let's see. Our satellites detected one of their attacks within 4 seconds and give the coordinates to the various defense system.
Well, he's probably talking about something in Iran. I don't know if that's the first strike he's talking about, or if that's, but I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, there's a lot of satellites that sent information, and that Helo system that I told you about earlier, which are laser stuff, that all is satellite oriented. So
yeah, I don't know that much about the technology. You've probably looked into that a lot more than I have. Between Two Lamps says, so this is becoming World War III, in your opinion, with other nations threatening to enter. I don't think people want to get involved in this.
No, I don't think it's becoming World War III, but I think it does have the potential to become World War III.
Yeah, when I said earlier that Marcus sent me a text, Trump just started World War III, that was kind of tongue in cheek.
Tongue in cheek, yeah. I was,
but it does have that potential, and it's risky.
Yeah, Iran has attacked 13 nations and turned 13 nations against it.
Yeah,
and then you have the sponsor of their proxies as well, and now Hezbollah is involved. It seems, though, that the Houthis are not responding; they're sitting this one out. So if Hezbollah is doing coordinated attacks with Iran on Israel, and the Houthis aren't doing anything, I wonder if Houthis had told them to go pound sand or something. I don't know. So
pound sand. That's no pun intended, I guess, because there's lots of sand over there.
Right.
I don't know about Iran. I made a camel joke one time with a Persian guy, and he said, "What is it with you Americans and your camel jokes? I've never even seen a camel." And he says, the camels are in Arabia. We're Iran. We're Persians. We don't have camels. And I felt so stupid after he educated me on that.
That's funny.
But anyway, they do have a lot of sand in Saudi Arabia and Iraq. That's for sure. Let's see. No, Obama hired ISIS. Okay.
I don't know. I can't say.
I don't know exactly what that means, but I guess what.
Well, you asked if Iran was funded.
If they funded them, I don't know. Well, then where did ISIS come from? Them, I don't know.
I don't remember. I did it one time.
Catastrophic Cannon says, just wait until Dr. Evil from Austin Powers movie releases the sharks with lasers attached. I don't remember. Was that a part of the movie?
I don't know. I didn't see the movie. But
I saw it, but it's been so many years I don't remember.
I'm wondering if there's a YouTube video as we speak that has something like this in it.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. It doesn't take long at all for people to put it together a good AI.
Not in the age of AI, yeah.
Yeah. Ivano dos Reis, hello. Greetings. Bem-vindo, meu amigo. He's I think he's in Portugal, if I'm not mistaken. But that's Portuguese, and I know a little more Brazilian Portuguese than I do Portuguese. Trump has done an amazing job. He's taking on the drug cartels. He's gotten who knows how much deadly fentanyl off our streets and saved millions of lives. I believe now he'll start focusing on the economy. Well, hopefully he's already focusing on the economy, but he'll have more time after all of this.
Well,
but I don't want to get into because if you've watched me for any length of time, you know that I'm not a big Trump fan. But if he's right, I'll support him, and if he's wrong,
I will say this: I'm not a Trump fan, but I'm not a Trump hater either.
Right.
I'm not opposed to Trump, but I'm not rah with pom poms or anything. I like a lot of the stuff he's done. And I voted for the man 3 times. So I'm not a non-supporter, but I'm a cautious.
I tell you that
cautious.
When this first started, I thought, "Oh, this is a mistake," because Trump ran as a non-interventionist, as we don't want endless wars, we don't want regime change wars, and he beat Jeb Bush up over that because Jeb Bush's brother got us into the Iraq war. And that's how one of the reasons that Trump got elected was because he was a man of peace. He didn't want, let's negotiate deals. He was always saying that. And then it looks like he's doing exactly what Bush did. But I don't think he's doing exactly what Bush did.
No,
I think
not at all.
I think he's got to have some other plan up his sleeve, because he realizes that this is political suicide.
Right.
If we commit ground troops.
Right. I think his foreign policy has been excellent. Now, what I'm looking at, what I think is going to happen is Cuba. He's going to apparently they're in negotiations now with Cuba. Cuba really wants to have talks with Trump. Also, the cartel.
Probably a lot of people are ready to negotiate.
Yeah, now they know he's not messing around, and people
Right.
are now wanting to talk. And I think that you'll see something with Cuba, and probably he'll deal with the drug cartels next. One of the things he did by shutting down the border really dropped the amount of fentanyl that was coming into the country.
Mm-hmm.
So the way the fentanyl was getting in was they were going to Venezuela, and they were using boats to bring it up to America. And that's when Trump started bombing the boats. And so he's dropped down the amount of drugs that have come into this country. Yeah. And so he's done a lot of things that you would not have seen had the other side won. And thank God Timmy is not our vice president. So
who?
Minnesota, the guy that was
Timmy.
Timmy.
Timmy. Okay, I didn't know. I thought you said Tammy.
Timmy. No, Timmy.
Timmy. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I call him Timmy because he acts like a little kid. So.
Good morning, gents. From Jared Nell. Jared is from Zimbabwe and lives in Australia now, and I think he's probably pretty familiar with some of what's going on with this. Leave a comment, Jared, if you have any thoughts to share. Jace Milligan, Russia is giving Iran intelligence about our positions.
That's true.
I hadn't heard that, but I wouldn't doubt it.
No, that's true. Russia has been giving Iran intelligence. I don't know throughout the whole thing or what portion, but yes.
Okay. Dennis Omirod or Ormirod. I'm sorry, I'm butchering your last name, if that is your last name. Ionized, because I was trying to think, is it ionized or lionized? He says ionized. Okay. So I guess that was the word I was looking for. Thank you for helping with my weak vocabulary. G Money Hockey, welcome. I saw that name once before. I don't know if you're a regular now or if you're new or what, but I think this is the second time that I've seen that name in there. Welcome. Okay. Vladimir Putin made quite a statement when he decided to kick out satanic worship from Russia. That's always a good thing. Putin, from what I understand, is Russian Orthodox. He's not an atheist.
Right.
And which is kind of a break from the history of leaders of Russia. They've tended since the days of the Soviet Union to be atheists. But
I think Gorbachev had some sort of a religious background too.
I don't know.
I remember a story of his mother baking birthday cakes and putting scriptures on the birthday cake or something.
I just remember his wife, Gorbachev's wife, said something of, she was making a tribute to Lenin, and Lenin was an atheist.
Right, Lenin was.
And she was talking about Lenin like he was, Abraham Lincoln or something.
Yeah, well, all those guys are heroes in Russia because they're not told everything that they've done. So,
I suggest Christians pray. That's always a good idea.
Yes.
Thank you, David.
Very good comment. Yes, and we have been praying.
The UN mucks up everything.
Mm-hmm. UN and NATO.
If we bring in UN troops into Iran. I think you can expect a first-class muck-up.
Yep. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
That's why I'm hoping that the Shah's son is going to be an interim leader and court. The Shah, whatever you want to think about the Shah, he was an educated guy. That's the reason they put him in charge of the country, because they were impressed. This young man seemed perfect to lead Iran through the next 20, 30 years or whatever. He was like 30 years old, I think, when he took over the country. And then he was there from, 45 to 79. Mm-hmm. He was only 60 years old when he died.
Right.
But apparently his son has grown up watching all of this and studying it profusely. And I think he'll probably be a good interim leader. He doesn't want power. He doesn't want
any power. Yeah.
He doesn't want to be political, but he does love his country, and he wants to see them get back on the
flourish.
right track. Did you look for the video of the magnet levitated string guitar?
I did. It was pretty cool. So,
I don't know what he's talking. Magnet levitated.
He made a comment about a guitar that works with magnets, and I said, well, all guitars have magnets, and that's what a pickup is. It's got magnetic poles in it, and he said no, it was different, but it's a different structure with the bridge and everything. There's magnets that it's hard to explain. You have to watch the video.
Okay, so you guys, you see a bunch of guitars in the background.
Yeah.
In Marcus's house. Marcus is a guitarist, and he's got his home studio set up there. So he talks guitars a lot, but we don't talk guitar a whole lot here.
We try to keep it biblically oriented.
Let's see. The Carter's misery index. Oh yeah, I forgot they did have a misery index, didn't they? What comprised the misery index? It was, I think, the unemployment rate.
I don't know.
And the inflation rate.
I don't remember.
I don't either. It's been a while. The one hope that I have, the recent protests that we see with the people there, they won't change when it's in Iraq. People weren't really wanting or expressing change from Saddam. I think it depends. I think a lot of people in Iraq were very happy to get rid of Saddam.
Yeah.
But I think they were afraid after the bombs started going off. They were afraid to show support for the American occupation because there were people in there that would kill you if they felt like you were sympathizing with the occupiers. Hopefully that's not going to happen in Iran.
Yeah, hopefully there will be no occupation.
Not with Americans anyway. Somebody's going to have to stabilize the country.
Right. Maybe somebody within the people of Persia, Iran. Well,
yeah, that's what Trump said. The people of Iran are going to have to rise up.
That's
and
my
reclaim
hope.
Their country.
Yeah, that's my hope.
But nature abhors a vacuum. When you've got no power, somebody is going to come in and say, "I'm in charge," and that might be a bad. Chances are somebody wants power that bad, and they're willing to risk their lives to assume power.
Right.
Chances are they're going to be a bad person, and they're going to kill anybody who gets in their way. So you don't want a vacuum where somebody evil is going to come in and try and take control. You want some sort of a consensus about who the leader is going to be, and there does seem to be some kind of consensus behind the Shah's son. And Trump doesn't really want him, but that may be. I don't know, unless he's got some other trick up his sleeve, that I think it's more likely that he's going to be involved than whether Trump likes it or not.
Yeah.
We came very close to America closing its doors under the Biden administration, allowing open borders.
Yes.
And all the other terrible things that's been going on. Trump is a godsend to me. Well, I think it's important to enforce the immigration laws, whether you agree with Trump's methods or not.
Right.
There's a drawback to every policy.
Right.
There's a downside to every policy that's effective. It's just like when Giuliani decided to clean up New York City. Well, there were a lot of people upset because they said that he was violating people's civil rights.
Civil rights, yeah.
That's going to happen. In order to get things done, you're going to make people mad. Let's see. Absolutely agree with you about, I guess he means Jonathan Kahn.
Yeah,
I don't want to get into that tonight, but somebody asked my opinion, and that's my opinion.
That's my opinion too, yeah.
Would you vote for Bobby Kennedy? For what?
I like him right where he is.
I do too. I would not want him in charge of the energy. I don't want him in charge of the energy policy.
He's suited. He's been groomed and developed for the position he now holds.
Yeah.
And so I think he's perfect where he is. I hope we have him there for a while.
Okay. Clay Cordell, watching from South Carolina. Welcome, Clay. I don't remember seeing that name before, but I appreciate you chiming in. And I know I'm supposed to say this, but I'm such a bad YouTuber, but I'm supposed to say like and subscribe. Oh, let me get rid of that comment so that you can see it. Why am I so bad at this, Marcus?
Because we're old and we have to deal with electronics.
I'm a one-man operation here. See, now that comment is gone. You can see the like and subscribe. This is what I'm supposed to do as a YouTuber, is remind people to comment, like, share, and subscribe. And if this channel has been a blessing to you and you want to support it, there's a link in the description. Okay, I've said all that. Now let's get back to the comments. He committed genocide on the Kurds, meaning Saddam.
Saddam, yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
He gassed him, yeah.
Yeah, and that's how we knew he had weapons of mass destruction, because he used them on the Kurds. What he did with them, we don't know. Yeah. The Iranians have a big Christian conversion rate, from what I've heard. Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Thanks,
yes.
Brian. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, this is very. And in fact, not a lot of people know this, but there's actually Daniel's grave is in Persia. There is a building over there where Daniel is supposed to be buried. Now, whether Daniel is really there or not, I do not know. But there is a building over there where Christians go, where Daniel is buried in Persia. This is interesting. I have a videotape of it. I couldn't believe it. And I did a couple other searches and saw the building. And so I found a video on YouTube and I downloaded it just to show my wife. But yeah, it's crazy that there's a Daniel is buried in Persia, according to this culture. So
I wish Europe had ICE agents patrolling everywhere. So many illegals, especially here in Portugal, making a mess. Yeah, I've heard that immigration is out of control in Europe, especially in the UK.
That's worse. Yeah.
Yeah. Saddam's second in command was a Christian, I believe. That was Tariq Aziz, I believe, is the guy you're referring to. And it's the reason that Saddam trusted him, because that guy had absolutely no chance becoming a leader in a Muslim country, because he was Eastern Orthodox Christian.
Right.
So, yeah, a lot of people don't realize Saddam allowed religious freedom so long as you didn't pose any threat to him or his government.
Right.
That was what Saddam was concerned about. You know, if you want to worship Jesus, that's fine. But if you pose any kind of threat to my reign, I'll kill you. I kill you.
Jeff Dunham.
Let's see. I heard Daniel and Esther tombs are in Iran. Hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
Was the story of Esther in Persia?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was.
You're stronger on the Old Testament than I am.
Yes, it was.
So
Haman tried to kill the Jews.
Right.
And what's this? This is very interesting, which didn't dawn on me until this whole thing in Iran unfolded. Purim is the celebration of what happened in the Book of Esther, when the Jews' lives were spared. So that holiday is called Purim. And of course, the whole thing takes place in Persia. And it's interesting to note that when the bombings happened in Iran, it happened during Purim, which is kind of interesting. So,
yeah, I've heard people talk about that a lot. I don't like making connections between current events. And,
well, I don't think it means anything. It's just
yeah, but a lot of people do. A lot of people who are doing videos about all this, they're trying to say, well, this is a fulfillment of this or that, or it's got, this means this is where we are on God's prophetic timeline. It's whenever I hear somebody talking about God's prophetic timeline, it goes in one ear and out the other.
Well,
because
it all depends. There is a prophetic timeline that was fulfilled 2,000 years ago. So there are things that have been fulfilled, but
Jesus said it's not for you to know the times or the seasons, and I think when we try to get dogmatic about this is where we're at or that, I think it's just speculation, and I've seen so much of that stuff. A
lot of speculation just
end up, dead wrong.
1980s were notorious for the speculation. There's so many things. This is why people are against dispensationalism now, because the dispensationalists got it wrong. So, and it was all based on things like the Purim thing. They're connecting dots where dots didn't need to be connected.
Yeah,
they were taking the Cold War newspaper articles and putting them into Bible prophecy. I think it was Jack Van Impe on TBN that he would read the paper and tell you how Bible prophecy is fulfilled by reading the headline.
Yeah.
So that,
and my favorite was the guy who said the 10 toes represents the 10 nations in the European common market.
Yeah.
And when that 10th nation joined the European common market, well, by golly, we're going to see the Antichrist any day now.
Yeah, that's all going to come. Now,
and then 11,
nations.
and then it was 12 and 13, and now they've got over 20 nations.
Right.
And they're like, well, wait a minute, there's too many. They're going to have to kick some of them out because that doesn't fit my eschatology.
Right. The other thing was the Gog and Magog war. Russia is going to go into Israel, and then God's going to intervene, and that's going to end the Cold War. And so they used Ezekiel 38 and 39 to say this is how God's going to end the Cold War. And just stuff like that. That's why you can't make these connections. The coincidences are fascinating, but is it a biblical prophecy timeline?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just there for confirmation. Maybe that's it. Maybe we're reading too much into it. So.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, guys. I appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Hopefully next Friday night we'll be back on schedule. We won't have any more tornadoes. And but it's not even spring yet.
I know.
We got another 2 weeks before spring.
Right. Spring is tornado season for those who don't know.
In Oklahoma.
We just kind of hunker down and don't go.
So we're probably going to have a few more of those before the summer, but usually it's not as bad. I mean, I haven't heard sirens going off that long in years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Until 11 o'clock at night where I live, the sirens were going off. And there were 2 people who died.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Marcus lives about 15 miles away from me. And so we're not, I don't think we're in the same county. Are you in Tulsa County?
I'm in Rogers County.
Rogers County.
But I'm right across the line. So
okay. But, I'm watching the radar and I'm like, well, I'm in the clear, but Marcus is dead meat.
Yeah. I was getting ready to do the emergency procedures. I told you what the emergency procedures were, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You remove all the sharp objects out of your pocket, get in a nice, cushy, comfy place. And you put your head between your legs and you kiss your butt goodbye.
Kiss your butt. Yeah. And I said, no, that's not the proper procedure. You're supposed to get in a bathtub with a mattress over your head.
Right. Well,
unless it's an F5. And then in which case, if it's an F5, then Marcus is right.
Yeah,
kiss your butt
goodbye.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, speaking of goodbyes, thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll see you next Friday night. And in a totally different topic, I'm assuming, unless this thing is just, if it blows up even more over the next week or so. I don't know. I don't want to start talking about news and politics a whole lot.
Yeah.
I'd like to stay focused on theology, but it's kind of hard to ignore this. It's such a, and I just felt like, Marcus and I being over 60, we have a different perspective because we remember the original Ayatollah and the Shah. And so we wanted to just chat with you guys. So hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. Have a blessed week, and we'll see you next Friday night.
All right. Be blessed, everyone.
Good night.
Night.